Can you pretend to be my date? The question was barely louder than the clink of glasses behind her, yet it landed with the weight of a confession. She stood there in a deep blue dress, eyes steady but desperate, as if she had already decided this moment would change her life whether he said yes or no. He had walked into the charity gala planning to leave early, another obligation on a long list, but now the single dad CEO millionaire found himself staring at a woman whose courage had stopped him in his tracks. And before this story ends, you'll understand why that one simple request didn't just save her night, it rewrote both of their lives. Before we go further, if you believe real love can show up when you least expect it, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us why hope is always worth holding onto, and you won't want to miss the ending. Ethan Kross hadn't planned on staying long. He never did. At 39, he was known as one of the youngest self-made CEOs in the city, a man who turned a struggling logistics startup into a multi-million-dollar empire. To the world, he was confident, composed, untouchable. But beneath the tailored suit was a widowed father who measured time in school pickups and bedtime stories. His 8-year-old daughter, Lily, was his entire universe, and every night he promised her he'd be home before she fell asleep. Tonight was no different. He had shown up, written a large donation check, and was already scanning the room for the nearest exit when the woman approached him. Her name was Maya Reed, though he didn't know that yet. What he did see was someone who didn't belong to the glittering crowd around them. While others laughed too loudly and bragged too freely, she stood with quiet tension, fingers twisting the strap of her clutch. Ethan noticed the way her eyes flicked toward a man across the room, tall, smug, clearly important, and how her shoulders stiffened every time he looked her way. When she finally spoke, her voice trembled just enough to be honest. "I know this sounds strange," she said quickly, "but could you pretend to be my date for the next hour? Just long enough to make someone stop bothering me." Ethan should have said no. He didn't do fake relationships. He didn't do drama. He didn't do anything that complicated Lily's world. But there was something in Maya's expression, pride fighting panic, that reminded him of himself after his wife passed, when he was strong in public and breaking apart in silence. He glanced at his watch, calculated the time, then met her eyes. 1 hour, he said. And only pretending. Relief flooded her face, followed by a smile so genuine it caught him off guard. She slipped her arm through his as if it were the most natural thing in the world, and just like that, they stepped into a lie that felt strangely comfortable. To everyone else, they looked perfect. The powerful CEO and his elegant date. But beneath the polite smiles and small talk, Maya's heart was racing. The man she was trying to avoid was her ex-fiancé, Daniel, a rising investor who had ended their engagement 6 months earlier after deciding she wasn't ambitious enough for his future. Tonight, he had made it his mission to remind her of everything she had lost. Bringing a date, especially one like Ethan, was her last shield. As they moved through the room, Ethan played his role effortlessly, introducing Maya as if she belonged at his side. He didn't just pretend, he listened. When she spoke about her work as a community art teacher, he didn't dismiss it as a hobby. He asked questions, real ones. When she laughed, he felt something warm loosen in his chest, a feeling he hadn't allowed himself in years. Daniel eventually approached, his smile tight. When he saw Ethan's hand resting protectively at Maya's back, the conversation was brief, tense, and deeply satisfying. For the first time since their breakup, Maya didn't feel small. When Daniel walked away, she let out a shaky breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Thank you," she whispered. "You have no idea what that meant." Ethan did have some idea. Because standing there with her, he realized something unsettling. He didn't want the hour to end. They talked until the band began to play and the crowd thinned. Maya learned about Lily, about bedtime stories and pancake Saturdays. Ethan learned about Maya's childhood, how art had saved her during hard times, how she still believed kindness mattered in a world that often rewarded cruelty. When the hour was nearly over, reality crept back in. "I should let you go," Maya said softly. "You were only pretending." Ethan nodded, yet neither of them moved. Something unspoken hung between them, fragile and electric. Finally, he cleared his throat and stepped back, reminding himself of boundaries, of responsibilities, of how dangerous hope could be. They exchanged numbers anyway. Days passed, then weeks. They texted, then called. Then met for coffee, no pretending this time. Ethan was honest about his life, about Lily, about the walls he'd built since losing his wife. Maya was honest about her fears, about how being left had shaken her confidence. They moved carefully, like two people who knew love could hurt but were tired of being alone. The first real challenge came when Lily entered the picture. Ethan had promised himself he would never bring someone temporary into his daughter's life. Introducing Maya felt terrifying, but when the day came, Maya knelt to Lily's level, asked about her drawings, and listened with the same attention she gave adults. Lily took to her instantly, and Ethan felt both joy and fear twist together in his chest.